Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Alif Fathan. My matric number is 268-850. So, from my topic is the study of the liquidity risk in PT Central City Tbk from performance from 2015 to 2019. The issues and problems in property business manufacturers could impact the financial results of its company. Many governmental regulations also decrease the income of their product. A corporation needs sufficient money to regulate their business. Investing in a company can increase profit. Although it will not happen directly, the company needs to do efficient managing to use its assets to gain profit. In this report, Central City Tbk has a fluctuating ROA and ROE data. The study's goal is to find what is causing the PT Central City Tbk performance to fluctuate. The objectives are to determine the internal factors causing the performance to be fluctuating, examine the external factors affecting the performance, conclude the internal and external factors that effectuate performance, and research question. And the research questions are the internal factors causing the fluctuations of the performance? Is it the external factors affecting the performance? And what is the main factor that is affecting the performance? So in this study, the liquidity risk exposure of the company and the subsidiaries arise primarily from the placement of excess funds arising from collection after deducting disbursement to support the business activities of the company and subsidiaries. The company and subsidiaries manage liquidity risk by maintaining sufficient cash flows and bank facilities by continuously monitoring forecast and actual cash flows. The company and subsidiaries are also implementing prudent liquidity risk management by maintaining adequate cash balance derived from collection, placing excess cash in financial instruments with low risk but providing adequate returns, and paying attention to reputation and credibility of financial institutions. Liquidity risk arises when the company and subsidiaries encounter difficulty in realizing its assets or otherwise raising funds to meet commitments associated with its financial liabilities. The company and subsidiaries manage liquidity by making the planned revenue and expenditure in the form of periodic cash flows, planning and monitoring of their realization. The company and subsidiaries put the excess of cash in financial instruments with low risk but provide adequate returns on financial institutions that have credibility and rating may be applied. The methodology for the study is we used resample internal and external from 2015 to 2019. Regression analysis is a technique for built equations and use those equations to create estimate value. Thus, regression analysis can also be interpreted as analysis estimate. Because it is a prediction, that predicted value is not giving a definite answer about what is being analyzed. The smaller it is the degree of deviation between the predicted value and the real value, the more it is exactly the regression equation is formed. The main purpose of regression is to make an estimate of the value of a variable, dependent variable, if the value of the variable that's associated with it are already defined. In the descriptive statistics, in the correlation, the most significant factor in correlation is the dependent variable, and the sixth section is to find the most significantly correlated independent variable to the dependent variable. GDP had a minus 0.948, which means that GDP had a negative correlation. In ANOVA, the most significant factor in ANOVA is the external factors. Join the sig or p-value method, p less than 0.05, which is p equals 0.009, based on ANOVA ensures that the inflation rate and GDP, independent variable, are important, and that the model is also fine. So in the sector, the independent variable will affect the current ratio. For the model summary, the one which is the most powerful to explain the dependent variable is the external factors. R square represents the number of independent variables contributed by the current ratio as 0.91 times 100 on the grounds of the above results, meaning that 99.1% is contributed by the independent variable. Then the value of the modified R square number is 0.983, meaning 98.3% of the dependent variable can be represented by the independent variable. And then the coefficients, the most significant influences the dependent variable in the study correlation is the external factor. This study reveals that the external factor has a large effect on the current ratio, which suggests that the external factor has a reciprocal impact. Depending on the table of coefficients, The p-value z is below 0.05, suggesting that the dependent variable is significantly affected. So, in conclusion, the statistical analysis gives insight to the dependence of companies' economic performance in periodical time. The results of estimation confirm that analyzing financial statements such as credit risk, liquidity risk, market risk, and such has the positive effect for restructuring of enterprises and improves the economic performance in the industrially or city. And the recommendation, considering the findings of the analysis carried out over the course of the study, the following suggestions can be made. Based on the positive effect of corporate governance and corporate performance analysis in periodical time, necessary measures should be taken to encourage managers to adopt constructive leadership behaviors to reach organizational objectives. It was noted that many research studies compiled for the study concerning corporate performance and governance did not report the correlation coefficient. Researchers should report their findings in a way that is conducive to meta-analysis so that their research does not remain limited to their individual studies. In the study's moderator analysis of the corporate, the construct validity of the scales should be reviewed in a manner that considers the differences in impact among scales measuring the same types of corporate governance, especially the organizational behavior scales. Maybe that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.